The government simps for women? Jesus Christ. Fine. We'll watch this stupid thing from Coach Red Pill. What's this? Yeah. Oops, wrong one.
The biggest sexual competitor to men.
Please stop grading your videos in such a way that it looks like someone peed on them. It's not a good look.
Is the state. Yeah, it's very obvious because you see, in the past, men provided things for women. That was the whole point of it. Women provided sexual attractiveness, physical sexual attractiveness, which of course was a symbol.
Oh, he's mad that women can get help if they become unemployed and therefore don't feel the need to be pressured into living with a man that they would otherwise not want to be with because they are afraid of becoming homeless. Oh no! You can't pressure women into having sex with you in return for shelter? Cry harder, bud.
A sign, rather, of fertility. That was why women looked the way that they do. They were showing to men, by way of their long hair, by way of their breasts, by their hips and whatnot, that they were not only sexually available, but that they were fertile. Men, on the other hand, what did they have to provide to women to show that they were capable of supporting the woman? Well, they had to show that he had physical prowess, that he could provide the resources for her and her children, their children, so that they would survive. That was the point. That was the transaction that's going on.
And that was a fucked up way to go about having relationships with other people. Making relationships about a transaction in which one person gets sex and one person gets shelter is awful and exploitative for all parties involved. No. Bad.
But now, of course, in our civilization, we have the state that has taken on a whole host of functions that in the past were functions provided by individual men. For instance, physical protection. Men in the past were the ones who provided the physical protection. Men in the past provided physical resources. These are now provided by the state.
Is he saying that cops are basically cock-blocking him because now women can call the police instead of having a man fight off, like, attackers? That's quite a take. The Ambassador 19 with 100 bits. He looks like a PE coach that got caught with child porn and bath salts.
By way of the police apparatus and the judiciary and the welfare state. It's no accident, of course.
We don't live in a welfare state. It's very fucking difficult to get on welfare, you idiot.
Of course, that in poor...
And most people are not on it anyway, so what are you talking about?
Areas, in poorer neighborhoods, among the poor demographic, there are more single mothers, where the men have been, for all intents and purposes, shoved aside.
Wait, do you think that in single-parent households with single mothers, they've kicked the man out for absolutely no reason? No one chooses to be a single parent unless it's, like, the best option for them. If someone has kicked their man out, whatever that might mean, it's probably because they were a fucking asshole, right? Or there are many situations where the man decides to leave, right? That happens all the time. Why are you assuming that women are like, you know what sounds really great? Being a single parent.
And the state has replaced them. The state is simping for women. The state is providing these resources because...
Is the government doing its function simping? The government allowing for a social safety net for its citizens in need? What is simping at this point when you just think it's helping people? Jesus Christ.
In lower class backgrounds, what happens with the men there? They can't provide the material resources that a woman needs or wants. But the state can, by way of welfare. And so If the welfare state can provide women with a decent income, with money enough for her to buy whatever she wants.
How much do you think people are getting from welfare? What are you talking about? Welfare is not enough to live this lavish fucking lifestyle, you psycho.
Why is she gonna hitch her wagon?
Please, Coach Red Pill, try and go on. You don't even have to necessarily go on welfare. Go and look up how much you can get in welfare, and then live on that much per month and provide receipts of everything you've bought, and tell me how easy that is, while supporting a child, by the way. Please tell me what a lavish lifestyle you're living. Jesus.
To some second-rate loser who can't. Why would she hitch her wagon to a man when she can hitch her wagon to the state?
Are you literally advocating that women should be put in such a desperate situation that they force themselves into relationships with men that they don't want to be with so that their children don't starve? You're literally advocating for saying to women, well, that's a nice child you got there. It'd be a shame if they starved to death. I guess you should come and service my cock. Do you understand how disgusting that is? You fucking sicko.
The state will provide her with everything that she needs. And in point of fact, in a democracy, the state will continue to increase the amount of goods and services it provides to women. Of course, in order to win their vote. Politicians in a democracy, they're not stupid. Politicians in a democracy recognize that women are half of the population. And
a little over half, actually.
so, of course, they're going to be talking about giving more social services to women. Why? In order to win their votes. And
it's good for anyone to get more social services. That's good. To ensure that people don't fucking die.
of course, women are going to vote for those politicians who promise to give them more resources. Of course they will. Because women are hardwired to desire more resources, not for themselves.
What the fuck are you talking about? Wouldn't everyone want to be able to live the most comfortable life available to them? What does this have to do with whether or not someone's a man or a woman or other?
Not necessarily, but rather for their offspring. Because, evolutionarily speaking, remember, women depend on the social environment to provide the resources to feed both herself and her child, because a woman with a child cannot provide for herself.
Okay, except that women do. Women can go and get jobs, and they do all the time. I've worked when I didn't do, like, internet stuff like this for a living. I've worked at restaurants and stuff where there were single mothers who worked their fucking ass off to provide for their children. What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
And so, of course, in a modern democracy, she is going to be more interested in and supportive of a
The Canadian Unicorn, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. I appreciate that.
politician who promises more resources. Of course. That's why women vote Democrat. Yeah.
Or it could be because people on the right tend to not treat women like human beings, and instead treat them like flesh vessels for babies. Obowan with 500 bits, thank you. If Gonzalo, Coach Red Pill, was really worried about the welfare state, he'd be in favor of a higher minimum wage, preferably around $20 an hour, and reducing the need for both partners to need to work to provide for a family. I agree. Companies like Walmart end up having their employees' wages subsidized because they're able to go on welfare because they get paid so little. It's ridiculous.
And of course, in order to rebalance this situation, what would have to happen? You'd have to have a party that says, no, we need women to be attracted to men. We cannot have the state interfering in that dynamic between men and women.
Fuck you! If you cannot get in a relationship with someone without the inherent threat of someone not being able to provide for their child, what are you saying about yourself? That you're an awful person that no one wants to deal with outside of a threat. That's fucking fascism. You want fascist relationships dictated by the state. It's so sick.
So therefore, the state should cut back on the welfare system, cut back on all these resources that it provides to women, because they're simply women, cut back on those resources so that men filled this vacuum. Do you think any politician in his right mind would ever promulgate such an idea in a
I would hope not, though honestly, I've thought a lot of things politicians wouldn't say ever, and they've been said in the last 4 years. So honestly, I give it about a month before some shitbag Republican congressman tries to say something like this. Things just keep getting worse.
democracy? Come on, wake up. Never. It's never going to happen in a million years. That's why in a democracy, the state is going to continue to give more and more resources to women, encroaching on the role of men.
You understand that welfare is not gendered, right? You can go get welfare if you qualify. You can go do that. Interesting that you don't do the same argument, but towards men. Seems like you just really, really want women to fuck you because you have money instead of, for having a personality that people don't find repugnant.
Cutting men out. The state will continue to simp for women because it's to the politicians' advantage and it's to women's advantage. And the few men, like you and myself, for instance, who recognize this and point it out, we're going to be silenced. We're going to be called misogynist, troglodytes.
Yeah, because you're literally advocating for making women who can't fend for themselves starve if they don't go and shack up with some douchebag like you and suck his dick, because otherwise their kid will starve. It's fucking sick, dude.
All kinds of names, whatever name you can possibly imagine, because of course, if you are talking about getting in the way of any person, be they man, woman, or whatever, getting between any person and resources that come for free from the state, well, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to throw a big old tantrum. That's what they're going to do, of course. I mean, think about it, yeah? You got some nice gravy train going, yeah? And somebody starts saying, we should cut this gravy train. And what are you going to say? You're going to say, no, 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 no. I don't want anybody to cut my gravy train. That's, of course, what you're going to say because you're a person, yeah? And we people, men, women, children, all of us, we are lazy. And if somebody is offering to give us something for free, of course we're going to take it. Women are no different. And women have been promised so much, and they are given so much by the state, and that's what's happened. And the growth of the welfare state is what has made men get marginalized.
Oh no, a government that cares about the welfare of its citizens? The horror!
The only men who are still in the game, as it were, are the high status men, the men who, quite frankly, can provide more resources than the state. Those men, the guys who are like middle class, solidly middle class and higher, who can provide a better living standard than the guy who's like slightly below middle class and everybody below him, well, those guys are doing okay. But as the state increases the amount of resources that it gives to women by way of laws that protect them.
Oh, these people are going to freak out when UBI becomes a thing.
By way of welfare payments and whatnot. By way of all.
Sushi Mom 10 says, Gravy Train, SSI is $783 a month. We got about $1,600 a month for 5 people and $343 in food. Such a gravy train, you fuckwit. Yeah, he's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot.
All the things that politicians promise to women in order to get their votes. As that amount of goods, services, resources increases, the number of men.
M the Ambassador 19 with 200 bits says, this reminds me of conservatives when they try and talk about how divorce should be harder because of the high divorce rate, yet neglect the fact that domestic violence has gone down. Yeah.
Who will be able to compete with the state will begin to shrink, as we have seen happen.
What do red pillars think of trans women? Oh, they don't think good things about us. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah, and so you have fewer and fewer men whom women are sexually interested in. Fewer and fewer chads at the top of the sexual hierarchy. They get the spoils, the sexual spoils of all the women. And a larger and larger group of men are left with the hairy palm and porn. That's basically it. That's their lives, which is horrible. But this is happening.
Red pill, if You are single. I have no idea what his personal life is. It has nothing to do with your wallet size. It has everything to do with your disgusting personality and your disdain for women. Like, I can tell you 100% that's the reason.
How to change this, I have no idea. But this is what's happening. Don't pretend otherwise. Our civilization is literally destroying the sexual dynamics between men and women. In the name of providing resources for those who are poor.
Do I think he genuinely believes this or that he's grifting incels? That's a good question. Coach Red Pill falls on the side of grifter, I think, to me. I don't know how much he believes it. He may not, but either way, even if he does believe it, he leans into it and knows what he's doing in terms of the grift.
For women who are vulnerable and whatnot, which is perfectly fine. It's a perfectly fine sentiment. I'm not some monster.
This is proof that the sexual revolution was a mistake. In what way, please? I'd love to hear your take on this.
Saying that this is a bad sentiment. No. But it has created perverse incentives. It has created the situation whereby middle class, lower middle class, and lower class women are not interested in a man. No.
Okay, if the only reason that you think a woman would be interested in you is so you can provide her food, then you think very little of yourself, don't you? Maybe work on your personality. That would help.
Why would they be interested in a man? They're only going to be interested in a man who's fun to be around with, who's hot, but not a man who can provide them long term. Why would they look for a man who can provide for them long term? They have the state who will provide for them long term. That's the perverse incentive that the welfare state has created. And it affects men, you. I mean, I know that my audience is 97.5% men.
What a shock!
I know who I'm talking to. You have to compete with the state. You have to be better than the state in order to get a woman.
Oh no, I have to actually work on my personality and be a decent human being that people want to voluntarily be around? The horror.
Woman, you better be either extremely sexually attractive or upper middle class or higher in terms of material resources, or else you are going to be with no woman. And it's because of the state. Kind of sucks now, doesn't it?
Or it's because you're an asshole that no one wants to deal with. Have you considered that instead of making excuses for why no one wants to voluntarily go on a date with you? Jesus. Coach Red Pill's such a dick.